G'day all, welcome back to Built by Chris. This is just a quick video on how I make a jig for my domino so I can place the dominoes in specific spots. The reason I need that is I'm building a bedhead for a customer and I need to put dominoes in specific spots and I want it to be very, very accurate. So with that I've decided to build a jig and this is just a video to show you how I did that. So let's go and have a look and see how easy it was. As with all of my jigs, I'm going to be making out of form ply. Form ply, in my estimation, is a great material to work with. It's very, very stable. It stays flat when you need it to stay flat, and it's very slippery. So if you need it to slip and slide, great idea as well to use form ply because it's got this like a melamine coating on it, but it's black. So first thing I'm going to do is rip it down to the size that I want and then I'll do that at the table saw, so let's go over there. I've decided I'm going to make the jig 200mm wide. I think that's wide enough for many of the applications that I'll be using it for. So I'm just going to set my, my fence to 200mm and I'm going to rip a piece down. So there we have the 200mm piece, and I've got to tell you the Incra positioning system is as accurate can be. If I put my tape measure on that, it is dead on 200mm. Can't be any happier with that if I tried. Next thing I'm going to do is, I don't think it needs to be this long, so I'm just going to trim it down. I don't know, let's pick a number. Say 400mm. I think 400mm is more than enough. So I'll get my pencil. Mark off 400mm. Get my square. Isn't that funny how everything you need is always on the other side of the workshop? There's my mark. 400mm. Now it's not good policy to cut something on your table saw that's narrow but long. The reason for that is because when you're pushing it through, you've got a tendency to walk it along your fence. I don't know how else to explain it. So it's not very stable not to do it that way. So the best thing to use is a miter gauge. So I'm just going to throw that miter gauge in there. And I'm going to be putting a block on here, and I'm going to set it to whatever the distance is. So that way I'm pushing it through here, but it's not going to be trapped between the fence and the blade. You'll have a better idea of what I'm talking about when I set it all up. Right, so here's my setup. I've got a block on my fence here with some clamps holding it nice and tight. I could have done it this way. Moved the fence out 416mm. Why 416mm? Well, I need a 400mm piece to cut, and I'm allowing 16mm for the melamine because 16mm is what melamine comes in. And I could have butted it up and cut it through. However, with that setup, it means I would have had this smaller piece riding against this. Again, not very stable. I want to keep it as stable as possible. So what I did, flip it around, and now I've got all this riding against the fence, or the miter gauge, and the arbitrary number that my table saw is set at is 248mm. With the piece and everything, so 248mm, I got it all set up, so now when I cut it, it's going to cut right along my 400mm line. Let's get that done. So there it is. I'll get my tape measure out. Measure that. Again, dead on 400mm. Very, very happy with that. The reason I showed you this setup is table saws are a great tool to have in your workshop, but they're extremely dangerous if you don't use them properly or if you abuse them. They will let you know when you've made a mistake. So I just wanted to show you this method, so it's the safest way that I knew to make that, just that simple cut. It takes a little bit longer to set up, but I still have 10 fingers. Alright, what I've done here now is I've set up my router table. I've got my fence set up. I've got some tape on here, and I've got some start points and end points, because I don't want the bit to go all the way through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a plunge cut at the A point, and I'm going to go across until I get to the other A point, like so. I've marked out where I'm hoping they'll come out. So I've got a mark on here, and there's a mark on the other side. So I'm going to start at A, finish at A, then I'm going to spin it around and put it on B. That way I know they're going to plunge in the exact same spots, and I won't have to move the setup that I've got. So best I stop talking and get on with it. Okay, now that I know that's going to work, I've gone through maybe halfway through. I'm going to raise the bit and complete the cut. So you know what? I won't go all the way through on this pass. I don't want to stress the bit. So all I'm going to do is do the same thing again. So there's the fence. I just went ahead and cut that. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen me cut a piece of timber a billion times before, and I didn't want to bore you with this one. So there it is there. All I've got to do now is place it. I've cut it so it's 50 mils longer than the actual base of it, which means I've got to make sure that it's sitting in the right spot, and then I've got to mark where I've got to drill some holes, because I need my T-bolts to go through. And they need to line up properly, otherwise the thing's not going to work properly. So I've got my square set to 50 mil, and I've got to butt it up there, and I've got to butt it up here. That's 50 mil, and that's 50 mil. I'll make sure that it's square. The only problem with this form ply is it's really slippery. So let's get ahead and there we go. Okay. Get my pencil, and I'm just going to make a mark right in the middle of those grooves. Okay. Just make sure that's 50 mil away, which it is. And this is 50 mil. Alright, so I'm looking good. So now I'll just extend these marks. Yeah. Now I'll set the gauge to 25 mil, because that's a half of 50, where it was when I went to school last. Here we go. Got to go drill some holes. Do you want to watch me do that, or are you going to wait? Yeah, come along. Okay, so I've got an 8mm drill bit in here. It's a brad point bit, so it's not going to wander on me. I've already marked the spots where I've got to drill, so let's get on with it. There we go, 2 holes drilled. Let's go see if I put them in the right spot. Okay, there's the piece I just drilled, my fence, or my stop block, whatever you want to call it. There's my 2 T-bolts, which they fit in there nicely. Now if all went to plan, this should just drop straight over this. Well, you know what? I couldn't be any happier if I tried. There we go. Tighten that down. And now this gives me an edge where I can butt up my domino, make sure I'm cutting in the right spot, and it's adjustable. Beautiful. All I need to do is make sure it's square when I tighten it down. There we go. Done. Now, the only thing I have to do is I have to recess these in because they spin. So I can't really crank down on the jig, and I want that to stop. So I'm going to chisel out a little piece in here so that it doesn't move around, and I'm going to super glue them in. So let's get on with that. Okay, I've chiselled out both of those, as you can see. I've got my 2P10 medium, I'll use the medium. And I've got my accelerator here so it sets it off really quick. So, to get everything ready. Put some super glue in there like so, pretty liberal with it. There we go, that's in. Hit it with the 2P10. And that is going nowhere. So let's do the other one. Both glued in, nice and tight. Let me just put away my super glue so it doesn't stick to everything. Let's try it out. There we go, that's nice and tight now. Beautiful and tight, that's not going anywhere. There it is. That is the completed jig. So I can now use this with my domino. So for example, I'm just going to set an arbitrary size here. Make sure it's square. Crank down on it. There we go. Okay, so here's my jig, clamped to, let's call this my my workpiece. It's my workbench. I'm not going to drill holes into it, but this is the jig clamped to my workpiece. I know it's all nice and square here because I squared it up. Now the way the domino works is the cutter, as you can see, the cutter comes out here, and the centre of it is 10 mil from this edge. 10 mil from this edge. So the way I set up my jig is I determine where I want my dominoes to go. I go from that centre point out 10 millimetres and I set up my jig. And then all I do is put up the domino to the jig and plunge down. And that way I know if I've got more than, say, one of these to do, I've got 3 or 4 or however many, I can set up my jig and I can and they're going to be cut in exactly the same spot every single time. So that's my jig. There it is. Very, very happy with this. So that's another jig out of the way. Now all I've got to do is use it. So there it is, another jig under the belt. This one's going to work in tandem with my domino. I use the domino quite a fair bit, and it's going to help me out a lot. I don't know why I didn't make it sooner. If you liked the video, if you thought that the jig was a pretty good idea and you've got a domino and you might want to make one yourself, go for it. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. Share it amongst your friends and everybody you know, and just let them know what I'm being up to. And I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye for now.